But thank you all so much for joining us for How to Improve Your Recycling Efforts, aka Beyond Recycling. Julia Greene, the Municipal Assistance Coordinator for the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection, the Mass DEP, is here to discuss how to cut down on waste and how to recycle correctly. Julia will give practical advice on how you can improve your efforts to reduce, reuse, and recycle in your day-to-day life in order to make a positive impact on your environment. And I again want to thank the 42 libraries who are partnering with Tewksbury for today's program. So all 125 of us who are watching live and the many more that will watch the recording, let's give a big virtual round of applause to Julia for joining us here today. And Julia, you can take it away. Thanks so much.
All right, well, thank you, Robert. So this presentation, as Robert said, is really about beyond recycling. So it's a little misnomer to say, improve your recycling habits. We'll touch on recycling too, but what I really want to talk about is reduce, reuse, and recycle for a better planet. So to get started, we're really centered here in the town of Tewksbury in Massachusetts. And I picked this bucolic scene in Tewksbury by a statue of Annie Sullivan and Helen Keller, because it reminded me that we don't see the waste we produce like they did back in the 1880s. Thanks to the work in the progressive era in this country, we have modern waste management systems. So a little bit about myself in my role is that I'm one of 8 municipal assistance coordinators in the state of Massachusetts. I work with 36 cities and towns north and northwest of Boston, Tewksbury being one of them. And I provide technical assistance on waste reduction and recycling to municipal leaders and personnel. So we have a trash problem that we don't see like they did back in the 1880s. Massachusetts residents dispose of about 5.7 million tons of trash per year. I picked this photo, which was printed in the Boston Globe about a year ago, because it's almost a Disney view of trash. You'd have a different view if you live near an active landfill or a train route taking trash to an out-of-state landfill or even a transfer station. So to ground us, in Massachusetts, we actually have a solid waste master plan, and it's actually in Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 16, Section 21. And it's updated every 10 years. So this past title of the Massachusetts Solid Waste Master Plan is called Working Together Towards Zero Waste. So in a nutshell, the main goal of the Solid Waste Master Plan is waste reduction. We have a 30% decrease in waste by 2030 as a goal and 90% decrease by 2050. Sounds really aggressive, right? How do we get there? Well, before we talk about that, let's talk a little bit about materials management too and climate change. And our consumption patterns and its associated waste are very large contributors to climate change. So nearly every day we hear a story in the media about the newest climate-related crisis or event, whether it is hurricanes, floods, fires, droughts, sometimes with dire consequences for people and wildlife. With that, I wanted to share the slide from a 2021 report produced by the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. And simply put, this pie chart shows how the production, consumption, disposal of food and consumer products generates 45% of greenhouse gas emissions, which are a primary driver of climate change. Think of all the energy and resources it takes to mine the raw materials, process them, transport to market, manufacture, everything that we buy. Then we use and dispose of these things when we no longer need them. Some of these items, such as single-use containers, are particularly wasteful as they use a tremendous amount of resources for a very limited purpose. It is imperative that we work together to reduce waste. First and foremost, recycle and compost effectively and close the loop through sustainable purchasing. These actions are a crucial part of the solution to our problem with greenhouse gas emissions. No. Okay. So another issue of why it's so important to have a solid waste master plan with such aggressive goals is that we have disposal capacity constraints in Massachusetts. So our remaining landfills will close when they are full, which could be within 10 years, and we have very few left in Massachusetts. We mostly are a great amount of our waste is actually sent to municipal waste combustors, also called incinerators, also called waste to energy plants. And they are all operating at capacity now. And there doesn't look to be political will to create any more in Massachusetts. So there's no new in-state disposal capacity in the pipeline. So in terms of that too, is that prices for trash and disposal are going up. And in addition to all of that, more waste is shipped out of state every day to less regulated landfills. And that's one of our big issues with trash in the state of Massachusetts. So what do we do in the state of Massachusetts to lower waste? One of the big things we do is we have what's called waste bans. And waste bans restrict disposal of solid waste. And in Massachusetts, the first ones were introduced in the 1990s. So you can see this long list, and it's really in the order of when these waste bans were introduced. So the last two at the bottom is food waste from commercial generators. And up until 2022, it was a ton per week since 2014. And it was just lowered to half a ton. And also textiles, and I forgot to put here mattresses. So the other information is there in another slide. So we have these waste bans, and we hope to see these things out of the trash, but we're still seeing them in the trash. So the state of Massachusetts every 2 years conducts what's called a waste characterization study at the 5 municipal waste combustors in Massachusetts. And more than half of solid waste disposed could be recycled or composted. So hopefully you can see this pie chart really well. And we see paper, other materials. Other materials are probably what the true waste is, right? So we see metal, we see plastic. There's a lot of construction and demolition in the trash, as well as household hazardous waste, even glass. And then you see something that we're really starting to focus on in Mass DEP, which is organic materials. That's food waste and other organic material, a whopping 30% in the trash. So that focuses on for us on what we want to get out of the trash. So the solid waste master plan in 2030, the new strategies that were introduced and went into effect on November 1st, 2022, was one, they lowered the threshold on commercial organic food waste to facilities generating more than 1/2 ton of these materials per week. So those facilities need to divert their food waste to composting or to anaerobic digestion, but not to a waste combustor. Then they also added mattresses. So now in Massachusetts, I know we have some out-of-staters here, but in Massachusetts, when you need to get rid of your mattress, now you're calling up a mattress recycler, either through the city or town or directly, to pick up your mattresses. They're no longer allowed as part of trash. And the other one that just went into effect is textiles. So clothing, shoes, etc., all being diverted out of the trash as well in Massachusetts now. So I'm going to stop. I'm going to go back here and see if there are any questions in the chat about Massachusetts policies before we go on to what municipalities do and can do about waste reduction. So any questions there, Robert?
So no questions yet about what the state is doing.
Okay.
And then I believe the next section is what the municipalities are being asked to do. And then the
Yeah.
final section will be what individual residents are being.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, great. All right. So, so I'll move on to the next slide. So,
You know
so,
what, Julia?
hmm,
Now that I say that, several folks asking about mattresses. Where are the
okay.
mattresses going? Where did the mattress recycle? What do the mattress recyclers do with the mattresses?
Okay, great question. They get diverted to a mattress recycler, which actually is, they deconstruct the mattress. And they sell, and the parts that are recyclable are the wood, the metal, springs in the mattresses, and also the stuffing. And I'm not an expert on it to know exactly what that textile material is. So that's where they're sent. They're sent to in-state and out-of-state mattress recyclers who recycle those mattresses. What was the other part of that question? Or
You pretty much got it.
okay,
The next question would be Judith would like to know, what do waste collection companies do with illegal items in their trash?
good question. I guess I wouldn't call it illegal, but the waistband items in the trash. Well, they take them to those waste busters sometimes because we see that in that waste characterization study that it ends up at a waste combustor. So the state has inspectors that inspect and that give violations for waistband violations, things that end up at the combustors. But I'll get to it later, is that we also try to get help from the cities and towns by cities and towns also passing regulations and ordinances on haulers that they need to provide both trash and recycling so that they're not picking up waistband items.
So a lot of great questions in the chat and Q&A, but I think they'll probably address the topics in your future slides. So I
Okay,
think we can
great.
move forward for now. Yep.
Yep. All right, so here's a map that we publish every year as well. And we create this map from a survey that we send out to municipalities on their solid waste tonnage by municipality. And then we translated that into pounds per household. So the color coding on this map goes from green to red. So green would be the lowest pounds per household, and deep red would be the highest tons per household. So now I'm going to focus in and give a closer look at our district. And I know that there are people from all over the state. But we're focusing here on, the northeast section of the state. So we know that the greener, the lower the waste per household. And you see the cross-hatching here. And the cross-hatching shows those municipalities that have what we call a pay-as-you-throw program, which means that residents pay for the amount of trash that they throw. Usually it's a bag program. They purchase a pay-as-you-throw bag, they fill it, and then they're able to either leave that bag at the curb or take it to the transfer station to throw out. So simply put, residents pay for what they throw out. This map also shows that neighbors matter. So to the west and very northeast, the color coding is mostly green and yellow. We see a lot of pink surrounding the very red municipalities. Our neighbors influence us. The policies in the municipality also make a big difference. So we're going to talk a little bit about policies now. So my favorite policy is trash limits. Trash limits, and we like what we call pay-as-you-throw, because the resident is motivated by not wanting to pay for throwing out a lot of trash. So a trash limit is effective, even if it is not as effective as pay-as-you-throw. When we analyze how the program and container type impact trash generation and costs, the data are clear. So the Pay-T programs represented by the orange bags, you see the lowest trash generation in the state. In this visual shows that. As many communities transition to automated collection, and automated collection are those trucks with the arms, hydraulic arms that pick up a cart. This is very common in other states, especially in California, et cetera. They're very familiar with automated collection. It's only come to Massachusetts in the last 10, 15 years, but more municipalities are moving to automated collection all the time. And so we see that on all of these cart sizes, the 35-gallon trash cart is smart and viable option, right? As the data shows here from 15 municipalities, the larger carts send the wrong signal to residents, and as human nature has it, when a big cart is used, people will fill them. It's really important to get the facts and be clear about your goals. So the container size will impact waste disposed. So for all the reasons mentioned, we urge decision makers to implement programs that reduce trash and its associated costs. So the next slide is trash limits. Like I just said, lower the cost and create better choices. But we also have to think about giving better choices to our residents. And that's through diversion of recyclables, organics, and more, right? So complementary programs, recycling, reuse, and donation, composting of food scraps, and opportunities to properly dispose of hard to recycle items. The options are vast, and we, as in MassDB, have the resources to help cities and towns transition. So it's one thing to limit the amount of trash, but then everything that's coming out of the trash needs to find a home. So, so one of the ways the state incentivizes municipalities to pick up some of these programs is an incentive program for cities and towns to earn grant money they can spend on waste reduction activities. It's called recycling dividends. And this year in June, 280 municipalities of the 314 applied for 3.6 million in recycling dividends. Awards are made in the fall. I'm going into, or did I say, you know what, I just realized I said 351 municipalities in Massachusetts and 280 applied for recycling dividends. So I'm going to go next slides into detail about this program. And one thing I want you to think about is how you can do your part around the work that the state does with municipalities, which is to advocate to leaders and decision makers in your municipality on adopting these best practices in waste reduction that will also earn grant money. So it's a little homework for you after learning about these incentive programs that the state has. All right. So once again, as I said earlier, we like pay as you throw a lot. Sometimes it is referred to as save money, reduce trash, save as you throw. It's also called trash metering because it uses what we refer to as a utility model. Just like with electricity, you are not going to leave every light in the house on if the electricity will cost you more. With pay-as-you-throw, people will divert more to recycling and food waste diversion, reducing waste sometimes by more than 50%. Programs can be structured to reduce the cost of trash fees and transfer station stickers so that actually the average person saves more money than they spend right now on trash. And the programs, basically in a nutshell, they incentivize what's right. So trying to find, okay, good. So this next slide shows trash limits, and this is only for the state of Massachusetts, but we give out recycling dividends if you have trash limits in place for certain quantities. So the favorite recycled cart quantity that we have is 35 gallons, right? And it actually holds a lot. So if you get trash picked up every week, it's gonna hold 2 to 3 tall garbage bags worth of trash. And sometimes when you drive through municipalities that don't have automated collection, have trash cans and carts that their residents buy themselves and put out, they're 35-gallon carts, right? And we also will give, some recycling dividends points also for 48-gallon carts. But beyond that, we don't give anything out except if you're a municipality that has every other week trash pickup. So not weekly trash pickup, but every other week trash pickup. And that you could put 7 to 8 tall garbage bags in. So we really know that trash limits work, and that's why we're so focused on trash limits and rewarding municipalities for putting those trash limits into place. Whoop. So the big one now that we're really focused on is organics, because if you think back to that pie chart, and like 30% of what's in our trash is actually organic material, right? And a lot of it's food waste, probably 20 to 25% is food waste. So we have a lot of incentives around organics diversion too. So we'll give recycling dividends to cities and towns that have or the most dividends to those towns that have a full curbside collection program. We also give out dividends to municipalities that have drop-off collection organics, like you see in the lower picture, along with selling composters, backyard composters, which you can see, and with a subsidy. We also give out points if you subsidize the subscription program. So it's actually a private hauler with a subscription program in town, but you might give people a free food waste card, or you subsidize the cost of it. And so just putting those, sometimes a contract into place that gives a preferred vendor, or the preferred vendor gives a discount in the cost of a subscription. So we also give out dividends if you're going to pilot a curbside program. So all of this, we give out dividends or recycling dividends because we want to see that food waste, the organics come out of that trash. The next one is bulky waste. We like when a municipality charges for bulky waste. If it is free, you are less likely to donate a couch or a dining set that's still usable, right? Those municipalities that don't charge for bulk waste find that they have a lot more bulk waste at their curbs because it comes in from other towns. Maybe if you live in one of those free bulk waste towns, you have let your brother-in-law drop off his couch in front of your house. Towns without bulk waste fees become trash importers. So it's another incentive. It's like you divert all the food waste, but also, is that couch usable for somebody else, or whatever the piece of furniture is, or large bulk items? Does somebody else want it? And we put the time into helping divert that out of the trash. The next one that we give recycling dividends for is swap sheds or swap sheds. And this one in Winchester is kind of on steroids. It's a big shop tent. Winchester has this giant tent that's connected to 2 containers where they store things in inclement weather. Normally, we see a lot of these swap sheds shops in municipalities that have drop-off trash programs at municipal transfer station or site. But any city or town can have them, and they're very popular. The next one we do for reuse is repair clinics or fix-it clinics or repair cafes. And a lot of times these are staffed by volunteers, and they run them. And what happens is people either make an appointment or just come in with their particular item, and the volunteers that who are recruited are the fixers, you know, people who know how to fix things. We all know somebody who knows how to fix something. And they're really very popular in the cities and towns in Massachusetts that now offer them. And it's just important to repair instead of throwing something out in the trash. The next one is a zero waste day. So, you know, there's the regular recyclables, bottles, cans, jars, etc., that are in your curbside program, but there's so many other things that can be diverted out of the trash. And if you don't have a site, like for a swap area, etc., zero waste days, or just even a site period to pick these things up or drop them off, the zero waste day is a good idea. So a lot of times this might be held in the on a weekend in a school parking lot, and you invite all these different vendors to come who take these things. And usually it's for free, you know, so you drop off your cell phones, your printer, cartridges. In this picture we see bicycles, textiles, etc. You know, a lot of very successful zero waste days might have 20 plus vendors. And again, it's another community building thing to do in your community. Another reuse thing that's become very popular in the state of Massachusetts is a library of things or tool library. Now, this is a movement in the library systems as well. And what they do is you check out a tool or any kind of thing that you might need to use, and you may only use it once. So you can check out tools, dolls, musical instruments, so many different things. And you try something out that way. And if you're not the musician you thought you would be, well, you can bring that banjo back, or borrow something you'll only need once. And there's a lot of tools that a lot of us end up going to Home Depot for that we use once. So these library things, again, are very popular, and it's kind of reviving libraries too. More people are coming in to not only check out books, but to also check out these different items that are offered. Another thing we incentivize municipalities on is household hazardous waste collections, so that people aren't putting them down the drain or leaving them on shelves where they, you know, might, you know, create other hazardous situations. So we incentivize municipalities to hold at least 2 per year, and we'll give them more recycling dividends if they hold up to 6 a year. So hopefully your municipality is holding at least 2, and maybe a part of a network where you can go to other communities to drop off household hazardous waste. Another thing we offer credit for, and this again you need a space for, is Centers for Hard to Recycle Materials that are called CHARMs. So it's all that stuff that doesn't go into your regular curbside recycling. So as you can see, this list is long, and we add different items all the time to this, but we're looking for at least like 8 or more to be collected by the municipality. Even now we have, like, if you read in the fine print down below, if you do a collection of string lights, which are those Christmas holiday lights, or marine boat plastic agricultural wrap, but all those boats we see in the boat yards with that big, all that plastic wrap around, is now being recycled. We'll give credit if you do it at least once a year. So I talked a little bit about this in answer to one of the questions about, you know, what happens when a hauler brings non-recyclables to the waste combustor. So what we're trying to do is get cities and towns to adopt comprehensive hauler regulations. And what that means is that they're required when like a building manager for a big residential property calls them and says, hey, we want to get you know, dumpster service here. Well, you also have, in this town, you also have to provide trash and recycling. So in this picture, we see the way they're doing that, which is sometimes the better way, is to have the recycling in carts, and they have information up on the wall that shows how to recycle correctly. And that's because no one's gonna just throw trash into a dumpster that's for recycling. It's gonna be a little harder. You're gonna know that, oh, these toters here are for recyclables. So basically, we give credit for cities and towns that when they're permitting haulers, that they require them to provide a bundled service. And then if they're actually implementing and enforcing those private hauler regs, first of all, it's just adopting them. Second is enforcing them, going out, making sure that their recycling is being provided. If people from residential buildings are calling, or commercial building calling and complaining that they're not getting recycling, then that's followed up by either Board of Health or whoever regulates the haulers in that town. And that helps Mass DEP, of course, to keep those recyclables from ending up at the waste combustor. So another thing that we're really concerned about is quality curbside recycling. Because we don't want trash in the recycling. We want clean recycling that's actually going to be able to be put into a bale and sold as a commodity in the commodities market. And how cities and towns do that is by, enforcing the residential quality curbside recycling. So here's a picture of a guy who's citing one of these containers because it's got some non-recyclables in that cart. So that's a dedicated enforcement education coordinator. You hire one, we'll give you recycling dividends for that to help offset the cost, obviously, too. And then haulers you can put that into the contract you have with your hauler too, that they can, instead, when they see a recycle cart that's obviously full of trash or wrong things in the recycle cart, that they don't pick it up and that they cite that cart as not quality. It's enforcement. And that way, the resident learns that if they don't recycle correctly, their recycling doesn't get picked up. So the last one here is outreach and education, which is so important. And I have a big long list. When you get the PDF of this, you'll be able to read this whole big long list of things that we would give you education and outreach activity points for. So we want the education out there in the community so people know what's recyclable, what's not, where are other places that I can take things that I think are could be of use to someone, recycled in some way, or reused or repurposed, etc. Getting all that information out there. Like right now, we're talking about waste reduction and reuse. How do we get that out to the general public? And so again, the cities and towns that do the best outreach and education, we give them credit for doing that outreach and education so that we're all improving waste reduction in our communities. So now I'm going to stop at this point and see what kind of questions we have on the Massachusetts programs of municipalities before we go into what you yourself can do, which is a whole nother ball of wax.
So Julia, lots and lots and lots of questions.
Oh, wow.
I'm just not sure, though, if they're specifically about state efforts as it relates to municipalities. Let me see here.
Well, I think, do we have some time? Or no, we've got about 20 minutes left or so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we could I could go through this next section and then we'll hold off and then we'll do the questions. How's that?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. All right.
I promise, folks, we'll get to as many questions as we can, but we'll do it at the end. So keep going,
this way
Julia.
we'll definitely get to them. All right. Exactly. So what can you do? So we're reframing the waste hierarchy on what you can do. And so many people, thank God, have recycling down. But now we want, this is the Massachusetts Recycle Smart. I wouldn't exactly call it a pyramid but it's a hierarchy. So we want you to rethink, we want you to refuse, reduce, reuse, repair, rot. We'll talk about that, and recycle. So I'm just going to go to my next slides, which will go a little bit into detail on each one of these. So let's rethink. Like earlier, we talked about consumption and, you know, just what's driving all the waste in our society, you know, and shopping is a big one. So I have some pictures here, whether it's furniture or high-end shopping, or we think, you know, we're kind of driven into some of our heads that shopping is fun. I don't really find it fun. I do not want to be standing in that Walmart line, let me tell you. But, you know, we really do. It's like overconsumption. We'll talk a little bit about that. So rethinking our actions around waste and what we produce. So the next one is refuse, right? When you go and you get lunch out, etc., and it's just automatic. And in you know, some of our municipalities have actually passed some really great ordinances on no styrofoam, no single use unless you ask for it, no straws. And even some municipalities have passed bans on bottled water use. So, but what we can do individually is we can refuse. We can just say we don't want it. And that really cuts down. And if we noticed during the pandemic, when everybody seemed like they were getting takeout, a lot of the restaurants would automatically put that on there as to, do you really want, you know, the single use utensils, because they were finding it expensive, because all of a sudden now they're takeout businesses, and a lot of them have continued that. But you refusing a lot of this stuff, and that goes with bottled water, carry your own bottle, bring your own shopping bags, etc. I'll get a little more into that. So the next one is reduce, and I'm showing this picture of Cambridge sidewalk just because one of the ways we reduce waste is that we divert out of the trash. And how do we do that? We divert it into recycling. We divert yard waste into a yard waste container. We divert to composting of food waste into a separate container, setting that up in our homes, right? Where we're diverting right where we are cooking, where we are tossing the trash out, because we're not going to go through trash later and try to separate it out. So the first thing is in reducing trash is to set up your own diversion setup, so that it doesn't end up in the trash. Everybody knows where the material goes. So reuse. So these are just some ideas, a million ideas out there, and it depends on how much you want to do. But I mean, I think the simple things is bottled water, carry your own bottled water, right? I mean, look how much waste from all those plastic bottles. Another one is the bags, right? Bring your own reusable bag when you go out shopping. And then you're guaranteed that that bag is a strong bag as well. Another one is like paper towels, right? Like, you know, how you can use rags for so much and they'll last forever, and just throw them in the wash and just wash them out and you're all set. And then I have a place setting here. It took me a while to find a simple place setting. There are all these elegant place settings online, but it's just like, you know, use your own cutlery, use your own dishes, you know, set a table. Let's live a dignified life, you know, put out a cloth napkin, treat yourself to what you would expect at a restaurant. Repair. All right, so here's me at the Repair Cafe in Salem with my printer. But repair is so important, and now we have outlets with these fix-it clinics and repair cafes. And just, you know, repairing things ourselves. It's amazing how many people don't know how to sew on a button. It's so easy. Now we have videos online to teach us how to do things that we might not know how to do exactly right there. So this picture of the button is actually connected to a video to show you how to correctly sew on a button. And then reupholstering things, repairing things, the furniture. There's so much we can do to repair so we don't have to go out and consume. So rot, of course, composting all the food waste is so good for the planet, and we can do that through different municipal programs that are popping up more and more all the time, and Mass DEP is incentivizing them. So please look into your municipality and see if you have a curbside program, a drop-off program, or backyard composting. Let's get it out of the trash. And then here's recycling. So one of the big things that Mass DEP offers is recyclesmartma.org, and it's fantastic. And I don't know how small this looks to you, but it has a recyclopedia. So a lot of these questions, a lot of times in these kind of presentations is, can I recycle this? Can I recycle that? And the recyclopedia, you can go up online and you can plug in your question, and it'll tell you what's recyclable and what needs to go in the trash or other outlets for a particular thing. It's the best thing since sliced bread, really. So I have a live link here, but I also, on this next one, it's all about Recycle Smart. But if you're sitting there with your phone, I'm just going to leave it here for a minute or so, is that you can just take that QR code and go directly to Recycle Smart, and then you can put it on your phone. And then anytime you have a question about what's recyclable or not, you can just plug in the item and find it. And if for some reason, you know, it's not in there yet, there are fewer and fewer things that aren't in there yet. Maybe it's a new product packaging and you're not sure. It says it's recyclable. Some of the stuff says it's recyclable and it truly isn't, at least not in our system. And so you can also contact Recycle Smart and tell them about this product, take a picture of it, send it to them, and then they'll add it. They'll find out if it's recyclable or not, what it's made out of, etc. And then they'll put it into Recycle Smart. So we're all smarter for it. So to end, I'm just going to go back to the new waste hierarchy, right? So rethink what we're doing, and you know, get rid of our thinking, our 20th century thinking or 21st century thinking that everything is buy, use, toss. Let's go back to the 1880s and figure out how to reuse and conserve some of our resources. Refuse the excess packaging and the single-use items, reduce the trash, reuse things, and repair, fix things that we can fix, and then compost any kind of food scraps and other organic material, and then recycle what's valuable to keep out of the trash. And then, only then, what's left is trash. So that's it. Now let's get to some questions.
All right, Julia. An anonymous attendee asks, is the Recyclopedia accurate no matter where you live in Massachusetts? Or are there instances where your municipality might recycle something differently? I have noticed some discrepancies between what is listed on Recyclopedia versus what is listed on my town's website, and I'm not sure who to trust.
Oh, well, I'd we always like to know what towns those are. I would say that you should trust the Recyclopedia. So one of the things that Recycle Smart does too is it periodically meets with what are called the materials recycling facilities, the MRFs. And they go over what is recycled, what is a commodity that's actually sold at market, and what is not. And that's what ends up into the Recyclopedia. Because if it's not a commodity that has any value, then it's tragic, but it's not recyclable. That's really the answer to that question. So So Recycle Smart is based on what the MRFs, the Materials Recovery Facilities, accept in the state of Massachusetts. Now, there is a dividing line, which is there's a materials recovery facility out in Springfield, Massachusetts, which is what's called a dual stream MRF, or materials recovery facility. And they separate out, pick up dual stream, which is paper, and then separated out as glass and plastics, etc. So it's a separate stream. It's actually cleaner than what's called a single stream MRF, where everything's thrown into the same container. So, so most of the materials recovery facilities in Massachusetts are single stream MRFs, except for the one in Western Mass. So when you look up, for instance, and there's one item that everybody gets stuck on, which is cartons. And cartons in Massachusetts, those are like milk cartons that are made out of like paper fiber. Those are not recyclable in the single stream materials recovery facilities. And they don't get enough volume of them either to make it worthwhile, or to move them fast enough out of there too, because a lot of it is covered with milk, which corrodes the material really quickly, etc. So if they've got it sitting out in bales in the yard and it's rotting away, it's no longer a commodity anymore. In Western Mass, they do recycle cartons at the dual stream materials recovery facility.
So Mary asks, what should I do with garden waste, weeds, poison ivy, etc.? My town doesn't want to take that stuff in the compost bins.
Yeah, they probably don't, because because it's food waste is what they're looking for. And some of those might be plants that are invasives, etc. So I don't know your town. Many towns offer yard waste drop-offs apart from food waste. And if they don't, I mean, you could try to compost them in your own backyard with a home composter if there's no other outlet there. Or you could probably try to look up and see if there's a private service that would also pick up those materials, or you could drop them off at a composting facility.
So 4 or 5 questions about recycling in apartment complexes.
Yeah.
When one lives in I won't ask them all, but the gist of it would be, when one lives in an apartment building that exclusively offers trash bins but not recycling, is there a way to report that in the state of Massachusetts?
Yeah, you can contact first of all, you can contact your trash and recycling program in your municipality and contact them and tell them that you're not offered recycling. So they may very well have these private hauler regulations in place, and they want to hear from you because they want to know that those haulers are picking up both trash and recycling. You can also contact the state of Massachusetts in the commercial division for waste reduction, and also report that your hauler is not picking up trash or recycling. And it could also go back to your building management too. So that's another place actually to really start is, you know, the building management, the property managers, why aren't they contracting for trash and recycling? So I also push them there too, because in the end, they can ask that hauler or tell the hauler that they want recycling pickup as well. And if they have private hauler regs put into place, they have to do it. If they don't, you know, they can still demand that they want recycling, that their residents want recycling, and then switch haulers if the hauler's not willing to provide recycling services.
Lori wants to know, how can I know if my town is applying for RDP points?
I guess you could contact them and ask them. The state of Massachusetts also puts out a press release in September, October when they award the recycling dividends points programs, all grants that they award. So you could look up their press releases and their information to see who was awarded recycling dividends grant monies, because that's all public information. And like I said, it goes out in a press release once a year.
Kate and a few other people asked similar questions. Kate says, we have had a hard time getting pay-as-you-throw passed in town. Do you have facts showing the towns where residents have actually saved money by paying pay-as-you-throw?
Well, they save money probably in the tax base. Like I said, you know, it's 50% less, up to 50% less, you know, tonnage in waste. So it saves money. It saves money for the individuals who are trashing less because they're paying a lot less for those number of bags that they would use during the year. And yeah, we do presentations all the time to municipal officials, sustainability groups in the town on pay-as-you-throw, but ultimately it's the people who are the decision makers in the town, the people that you elect to be able to persuade them to move to a pay-as-you-throw program.
Pat asks, what are we supposed to do with textiles that are in bad shape, things like old underwear?
Well, still donate it, because a lot of it's a really high number, like I'd say almost like you know, nearer to 100% of textiles that are donated are still used. So they may shred that material. It could go into rags. So I would just donate it all and they'll find a home for it. I mean, some of it goes into insulation depending on what the material is made of. So not everything goes to, you know, a retail outlet where people are walking in to buy some clothing. A lot of it goes elsewhere, but it's all reused. So still donate it. Should be clean and dry though, clean and dry, just like your recycling, clean and dry. We don't want any mold growing on that.
Several people asking a question along this line from Mary, who says, where should I put plastic items that do not have a recycling triangle on them?
In the trash. Yeah. And the recycling triangle, I mean, it's important to use recyclesmart.org because the recycling triangle is so confusing. All it's telling you is what the material is made out of. It's really not telling you whether it's recyclable in your curbside program. So the first thing I do is look that item up, look up that container and see if it's recyclable or it's not in your curbside program. And that would be in most of the state, or if not all of the state of Massachusetts, if it's in Recycle Smart. So again, the triangle, the chasing arrows triangle with the number in it is just telling you what the material is made of. It's not telling you if it's recyclable, so it is confusing. Did I lose Robert? No? I think we might have lost Robert. Oh, here's Robert.
Sorry about that, Julia. My Wi-Fi went down. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah.
I'm back. The good thing about the webinar format is that the Zooms keep going even without me.
Yes.
All right, let me jump back on here. So we'll take about 5 or 10 more minutes of questions. Ada asks, is there a list of compost or yard waste locations in Massachusetts?
If you Google, a lot of times to find things on the Mass DEP or on the state of Massachusetts government website is to just Google it. So if you Google compost sites map, state of Massachusetts, you'll find one. I don't know how up to date it is, but there is a map that shows compost sites. But this is actually, you know, composting sites where they're actually, you know, making compost into, or making whatever yard waste or food waste into compost. You could also try beyond the bin and put compost site near me if you're looking for more of a drop-off compost site.
Anonymous attendee has a kind of a similar question. How can we find a map showing how much waste we're producing by municipality?
Oh yeah, that's the map I showed. And so how much, so you could Google how much do we throw out Massachusetts, and you can find that map. It'll be on that map page. You know what, after this is over, I'll put some links into my actual presentation and then make a PDF of it. So I'll stick a link in there to that map so that you can go online and look at that map.
Yeah, thanks, Julia. An anonymous attendee says, we're being told that plastics really aren't even being recycled. Once China stops taking plastics, the market collapsed and really doesn't exist. You have a comment for that?
Well, I think that's untrue, especially the plastics that are in your recycling program. Again, back to our work with materials recovery facilities, right? And the commodities market. So there is a commodities market, and they do pay for plastics that are, you know, those you know, jars, tubs, et cetera, made out of plastic, different materials. And so everything that Recycle Smart tells you to put into the recycling container or your bin or your cart, that's recyclable. Put it in there. It'll get baled. It'll get sold at market, and it will be, you know, recycled. And what happens with the recycling, at least that comes out of Massachusetts, is that, you know, it'll be shredded in its whatever material, plastic it is, whether it's PET. I know this is all like jargon, but HDP, different, you know, materials of plastic will be sorted out, and then they'll be shredded, and then they'll be made into new plastics. Now, a lot of the producers, you know, are making commitments to recycling more plastic. And if you notice, like I noticed that now my mayonnaise jar is now made out of plastic that is 100% recycled. The problem with plastic is it's not, you know, the perfect item because it's only recyclable a few life cycles, unlike glass, which would be infinitely recyclable, right? But at the same time, plastic is being recycled. We can find recycled, 100% recycled plastic products on the shelf. You should put those, especially in the state of Massachusetts, in your curbside program, and it will be picked up, taken to the MRF, sorted, baled, and sold at market, which is what we're looking for when we're trying to recycle things.
Sean asks, do the other New England states have similar recycling policies and laws, or is Massachusetts one of the leaders, Julia?
I don't know that I know how to answer that, because I don't really know the other states' laws in detail to know what they have or they don't have. So I would say I can't answer. I don't know the answer to that question.
No worries, no worries. Have the efforts that Mass DEP are doing, have they reduced the rat population in communities? Is this being tracked? Overflowing trash bins are restaurants for rats. And they also love chewing through compost bins. That question comes from Anne Marie.
Well, actually, like those towns that have food waste pickup, with the locking, food waste carts, is actually, less of a banquet for rats, but we don't, track any information about rats, but, anecdotally, I'll tell you just from, what I see and what I do, is that the food waste is more contained, your trash is cleaner, it's less of an attraction for rodents. And then overflowing trash carts, whether that was supplied to you by the city or town or you yourself. Yeah, that's a banquet for a rat, but I'm not sure it has anything to do with the policy of trash, recycling, diverting food waste. It's a separate issue. It's more containing your refuse.
So Teresa asks, how can the town I live in charge $150 for a mattress drop off, whereas a town nearby only charges $55? Why is there a disparity in the mattress disposal costs between municipalities?
Well, maybe the other town is a couple of things. It's the contract they put into place, but it's also maybe one town is subsidizing the cost of that mattress recycling, and the other town is not subsidizing at all. So that sounds really high, though, 150. I haven't heard prices that high. So, but it depends on what the municipality negotiates and what they subsidize.
Anonymous attendee says, our town is going from curbside bags to 35-gallon carts, and the fees are increasing by more than double. Have you found this type of change will cause more trash?
Could you say the question again? I'm not.
Sure, one second.
Read it.
I already checked it off as answered, so now I have to find it. We'll move on to the next one.
Okay.
We do have a lot of questions with people like asking specific things about their communities. So I'm not sure you're going to know the answers to these.
Exactly.
Why did the town of Burlington do away with the containers for cardboard they had behind town hall? Do you happen to know the answer to that one, Julia? No.
I wouldn't know that. Yeah.
So I'm not going to ask you the specific community questions. Mary's big overall question, she asks a bunch. How do we get people to comply with the recycling regulations?
Well, it's having an enforcement person out there enforcing the recycling rules, right? If you don't get it picked up, then you have to figure out how to clean it up and get it picked up. That's what we find really effective. We have a program we call the Recycling IQ Kit. And what that does is basically is a methodology for your enforcement people to put into place where they tag and don't pick up any recycling that's contaminated, what we call contaminated, which has trash in it, is not set out correctly. And then it doesn't get picked up. The person gets the note. They see what they did wrong. It says, we'll pick it up once it's cleaned up in the next recycling pickup. So that program is super effective because people want their recycling picked up, just like they want the trash picked up. And if they know that it's not going to be picked up because they're not doing a good job at recycling, then they're going to start doing a good job at recycling. I think enforcement is really important because enforcement says that this is real. This is important. If you don't do it correctly, then we're not going to pick it up. It's kind of like a stop sign. If you blew through the stop sign all the time, if everybody in the town blew through the stop sign is not effective. But people stop at the stop sign for different reasons. One, they know it's there to keep them safe. Two, they don't want to be given a ticket, etc. They stop at the stop sign. It's enforcement. It enforces good behavior at that intersection. And I just like to make the comparison because it's enforcement with recycling too. You enforce clean recycling. People get the hint. They understand that clean recycling gets picked up. Dirty, contaminated recycling does not. I'm going to put out clean recycling. If no one's enforcing, then it doesn't matter. I can fill my recycle cut up with trash and they're gonna pick it up, so why do I care? So it's really important. Enforcement makes everybody happy, because if I'm doing the right thing and I see that you're enforcing with my other neighbors, then I feel good. If I'm doing the right thing and I see that nobody else is doing the right thing and there's no consequences for it, why am I bothering too?
Right.
So enforcement is good.
So Julia, we got through about 25 questions.
Wow.
We got through about half of the questions. Okay. Last question goes to Robert, a different Robert. He
Okay.
asks, if the state's landfills are to be filled in 10 years, what is the state's plan after that? And what will be the impact to the residents?
Well, yeah, and I'd say that's why we have you know, I'm gonna go I'm gonna go way back to the master the solid waste master plan right here. This is the big plan, that we reduce the waste because we don't have any more capacity otherwise. And we can really reduce. If I go back to the pie chart really quickly here, really, when I look at other materials, 10%, 10%, we should be able to get that pie chart down to 10%. And that's what the trash is. So that's where we're going. Is if everyone is recycling and doing trash and recycling and diverting other materials, we can get to that goal. And then we don't have to worry about creating new landfills, or worse, putting our trash on a train and shipping it out of state. So that's what I'd say.
So folks, let's give Julia a big virtual round of applause. I will send everyone later today a link to this recording. I will send a PDF of Julia's slides if she wants to provide that. Sounds like she will. And I'll also provide Julia's contact information. I recognize, I acknowledge that we didn't get to about 25, 30 questions. I will make sure that I provide you Julia's contact information, and you can ask them of her. You can follow up one-on-one with her. So I want to thank the 40 plus libraries who helped spread the word about today's program. And I really want to thank Julia for a great job. I know you don't give a lot of presentations over Zoom, Julia. You did a great job. So thank you all so much. And I hope everyone enjoys the rest of their day. Thanks again, Julia.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.